this morning or late last night at the Ricardo Tormo circuit in Valencia. We had
Lift
Alex
your
Rins.
mic closer to your mouth.
Is that better?
Yeah, heaps better.
We had Alex Rins winning the Valencian Grand Prix, followed by, I can't even remember who came second. Was it
Martin?
Jorge Martin and then Brad Binder coming home in third. Suzuki's last race, Suzuki finishes their foray in MotoGP with back-to-back race wins.
Sorry, it was Brad Binder then Martin. Sorry.
Binder then that's all right. So Suzuki finishes their MotoGP, foray with 2 wins from Alex Rins, kind of making us all wonder why they're leaving and what could have been for Rins if he managed to stay on the bike. But that's neither here nor there. What a fantastic way for them to leave the sport, still showing that they have it. And obviously, there's a debate about the prudence of them leaving, but that is probably for another time. The race from the protagonist point of view, both Quartararo and Bagnaia, was a little bit underwhelming. Bagnaia, doing what he needed to do to win the championship, staying out of trouble, although he did make contact with Quartararo in the first few laps of the race, which did damage his bike. And then obviously Quartararo, valiant as ever, trying to make things happen. But again, it was pretty obvious that he was kind of, hamstrung, trying to win a championship with one hand behind his back. So what we had was an 18-round championship. Halfway through the championship, the conversation was, is it already over? I'm pretty sure we called it twice. Joseph, I'm sure that you called it twice as well, that the championship was well and truly over. But what we had at the end of it was a championship that came down to the last race. And realistically, the odds-on favourite for most of the season coming out second. So what did you make of the championship, mate?
I think realistically, if you think about it, there was two distinct parts to this championship. There was the part where the Yamaha bike was able to do well enough that it could consistently amass a lot of points while Ducati was working out the new bike. And then there was a distinct time where they sorted out that new bike, and it has been a one-hill landslide since then. And realistically, I can't, when I said the championship was chalked up, and I definitely said that feels like so long ago. I mean, Bagnaia got 5 poles this year. I think he got 5 or 6 wins this year. It has been an absolutely dominant season by him. And for him to have, I think, DNF'd 4 or 5 times as well, and to still have pretty much wrapped up the championship by the second last round is an amazing effort. So congratulations to him, number one. Congratulations to the whole team from Bologna, because you can say many championships are not fluke, but they can be fortuitous. You think about Suzuki's COVID year. Some would say it was fortuitous. You could even like a Braun GP year. Some would call it somewhat fortuitous, but this season has been totally orchestrated by the people at Ducati, and it's the scary thing is it only looks like the beginning.
Well, it's been a long time been a long time coming. Obviously, the last championship Ducati won was with Casey Stoner in 2009.
2007.
2007. So it's been a long time coming. Obviously, a couple of years ago, we saw Ducati take a real step forward with Dovizioso, particularly when he was able to take it to Marquez in those 2 championships. Might have been 17 and 18. When he was really at the peak of his powers. But the issue was always that they hadn't figured out the handling of the bike through slower corners, and it had all the power. Whereas now we've got a bike that has been iterated for the better part of a decade, that is just as nimble, but also has the straight line speed to be devastating. So it's definitely been a long time coming. There's been a lot of investment. There's been a lot of development to get the bike where it is. And obviously they are in a position now where they should be reaping the rewards. One thought that I did have as it pertains to Yamaha is, we've seen Yamaha in the past win championships early in the season. We've seen them lose championships late in the season. And by that, I mean, many times we've seen, or in the recent past, we've seen Quartararo, for example, on the SRT bike start a season really strongly, flame out at the end as the bike doesn't develop. We've seen Maverick Vinales on a Yamaha start the season very strongly, get to Le Mans, and then the season starts to fall apart, and Marquez is able to, regain and reclaim the championship. And I think we saw the same thing again this year. It seems like when other teams early in the season are still figuring out their packages, figuring out the development, trying to figure out what is the best configuration for the development of their bikes, Yamaha is able to really put some points in the bank. But there is a trend now that we've seen with the team really struggling with late season development, and even last year could have very easily been, a championship result very similar to this had Bagnaia stayed on the bike in Misano. So what do you make of that? How do they rectify this moving forward? Because, I've identified 3 times in the last 6 years that they've lost championships in that way, and it could have been a 4th as well. So what do you make of that statement? Is it accurate? How does it get rectified?
I think with Yamaha especially, I would call it a complacency that when they win, they fail to sort of like reinvent themselves. And so last year they won the championship, which was a great feat for them. But then we knew that the package you brought in this year had to sort of been dialed in by preseason testing. You needed to know what you were going to, what final package you're going to bring by the end of preseason testing. And we saw teams like Ducati and KTM really throw a lot at the wall and see what stuck all through testing. And it became very apparent very early that Yamaha was just bringing the same package with some slight tweaks here and there.
The crazy thing was we heard Quartararo say the day after his championship finished at the Valencia test that they needed to do more to keep him there. And this was the day after he'd won the championship with them.
Well, he is decided to stay there. And from the so tomorrow is going to be an interesting day because there's actual testing happening in Valencia on all the new bikes. And I think tomorrow is going to be an interesting day to see if the pace that they seem to have found with the new engine at the mid-season test is going to carry on to the end of season test. But I think it was just them thinking that they were going to maximize the the potential of that bike for another year, which was long overdue. And that bike, since halfway through the season, hasn't even looked close to probably the top 3 bikes on the grid. Like, kudos to Quartararo for banking up so many points at the start of the year, but he's still second in the championship by the time the end of the season comes. But I mean, you could make a very strong case that over the second half of the year, the Suzukis have been better than that bike. The KTMs have been better. The Aprilias probably not as much over there. They've probably dropped off a bit at the end of the year as well. But that's probably the same thing as
they're probably still better though.
Yamaha. They were max it. Yeah, they were still better, but they were running the same thing as last year.
I've lost him.
Needed to bring a new bike just to reach another level. It was the right call. And the thing with Ducati, I don't want to blow smoke up their ass too much, is they're always the team bringing the new developments into the sport. They're bringing the active suspension, they're bringing the wings, they're bringing the ride height. Now they've got these new those rear tail, winglets. They're always innovating. So I really think that they built this championship and they deserve it. And if I sound
biased, go for it.
Biased, I am biased because I think.
How long have you been waiting for one of these, Joe?
For one of these.
Yeah, for a championship, Ducati championship, it's been what?
Probably since 2013, like actively waiting. Passively waiting probably since Stoner won it, but actively waiting since about 2013.
No, you should bask in it.
I've seen you win a few. I've seen John win a few. I saw Michael get one. So it's
your
my time
mate.
in the sun.
It's your time. Good on you. No, it's awesome.